Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07. It's O'Connor and Company, and boy, oh boy, the smug, smarmy, smarter than everybody else in the world morning shows on cable news have begun, and they are just not happy with this Pete Hegseth thing. I will tell you, on Fox News, Brian Kilmeade is on the sofa, Julie Gunlock, so there's no truth that he is being vetted as the new Secretary of Health and Human Services. Although I thought he would have been great. So he showed up for work today. Hegseth, of course, not there. Over on Fox, as they talk about Pete Hegseth, they keep showing pictures of him in uniform, in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Or doing an appearance in uniform. Over on CNN and MSNBC, they keep showing pictures of him on the set on Fox News. Those are the pictures they're showing. And apparently the big debate on CNN is because Pete Hegseth has said recently that women should not have combat roles.
Well, if I can just say one final thing on this, is that the people complaining about Pete Hegseth are the people who stayed silent when Rachel Levine was put at HHS and Sam Britton, the cross-dresser, right? The luggage stealer, was put in charge of our nuclear.
You know what? If Hegseth comes out as trans right now, it's a game changer. This is Trump 2.0 playing 4D chess. That's not the last thing you're going to say about that. We'll be discussing it all morning long. Also, coming up in 30 minutes, we'll speak with the sheriff of Frederick County, Chuck Jenkins, exonerated on those bogus charges. 7:05, Betsy DeVos, former education secretary. 7:35, Senator Ron Johnson in the center of the leadership battles there in the Senate. Vote will be today, or will it? At 8:05, Tom Homan, your new border czar. So that's a lot, Julie Gunlock. And right now, we've got our friend Will Hild joining us. He's the executive director of Consumers Research. There's a lot to discuss, Mr. Hild, but I got to ask you, with the formation of this new Trump cabinet and sort of the vindication of the election last week, where DEI ideas and policies were, I think, very much a part of the campaign, considering you're the first person who raised awareness for many people about DEI and how DEI has not only infiltrated government agencies, but also the corporate boardrooms, I'd love for your reflection on this. This is a bit of a vindication of everything you've been saying about the insidious nature of DEI. And do you think the DEI is sort of gone for now, or will come back, rebranded with a different label, sir?
Oh, well, thank you for saying that, Larry. It's a great day for America. It's a great day for American consumers because you're 100% right. The DEI is on the retreat. Companies left and right are either dropping their DEI programs altogether or dropping the E part because the equity, basically they're realizing their compliance departments are going, wait a second, we committed to everyone ending up in the same position regardless of their performance? I'm pretty sure that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. And so they are left and right in retreat. This is great for, like I said, it's great for Americans who are actually going to get judged by their merit, their skill, their ability to contribute to a business. And it's great for American consumers because companies like Boeing, for example, are going to start making planes that can fly and have doors that don't spin off mid-flight. Instead of focusing on bean counting, race, and sex. So I appreciate that. I do think it's a vindication of the critics of DEI and what we've been saying. And you're 100% right. It looks like a lot of the social issues around DEI, around trans issues with kids, actually played a significant role in the final days of the campaign. And a lot of people who made up their minds at the last second, that's what helped make up their minds, and they made up their minds for Trump.
Yeah, and Will, you're not resting. You are charging ahead on trying to make people more aware of the dangers of some of these, the incredible radicalism on the left. And one of those issues you mentioned is the transitioning of children. We've seen more awareness, but certainly this is still being pushed, particularly by the medical field. Tell us what you're doing. You have these digital billboards driving around DC. Tell us about this new project you're working on.
Absolutely. Well, there's a number of companies, namely Kroger's and Costco, amongst others, who are highlighting, who it turns out have executives working at their company, people like their chief marketing officer, for example, who are sitting on the boards of hospitals that are currently mutilating children surgically, chemically, And that's really what it is. There is no known scientific way to change one's sex. That is set at your cellular level. Your chromosomes determine your sex. You cannot surgically change that. So when you are talking about sex changing a minor, what you're talking about is chemically and surgically mutilating them. Yes. And that is what these executives are overseeing at these hospitals, like this in Seattle, for example. Thousands of them. In Europe, they are currently in full retreat from this. Yes. This is an area where I think people think, the Europeans obviously get a lot of getting ragged on by us for being loosey-goosey or left-wing, and that's certainly true in a lot of areas. But this is an area where they've been ahead of us in realizing the horrors of these sex change operations. And so we're sort of, the fact that anyone is still doing these here in America is really appalling. And the fact that these major corporations who are supposedly serving their consumers would have executives who are overseeing this is really alarming. And so we are raising the awareness amongst consumers as is our main focus, and also amplifying their voice to push back against these brands and saying, how do you have executives that are involved in this? You either need to disassociate, executives either need to disassociate themselves from these hospitals, or you need to disassociate yourself from these executives, because it's appalling that Kroger's and Costco, for example, would be involved in this.
And folks, if your commute takes you through Northwest D.C. Up by the VA Medical Center on Michigan Avenue, you might see these billboards because D.C. Children's National Hospital is right in that complex, and they are one of the facilities that you are highlighting with these mobile billboards, right? What do the billboards say, and what is going on at Children's National Hospital that you're trying to raise awareness to? Be specific.
Absolutely. Well, try to be specific without getting you afoul of the FCC regulations on radio, because when you're really talking about
ironic?
Exactly. Because when you're talking about what you're doing to children, this is these areas where a kid maybe plays with toys that are associated with the other gender, or maybe they want to paint their nails, and they're either their parents or somebody in a school system decide, well, that actually means that they're the other gender. And so they get involved in these programs at some of these hospitals where they say, yeah, we can actually, your kid has gender dysmorphia, which has been historically the diagnosis they've used. And then they say, the real solution for this is to chemically and surgically have them change their gender, which, again, is not possible. You cannot change the sex of a child or even adult with surgery or chemicals. It's not possible.
And Will, these medical or these hospitals, then they go on to do these, give the kid sort of the medication that stops their puberty, which sterilizes them, and they will not then have any sexual pleasure the rest of their life, and they perform these surgeries. But also talk to me about how these medical professionals then they convince the parents that their children will commit suicide, which that is not true. Most of these children do grow out of this and might go on to be gay individuals or lesbians, but they don't, by and large, they don't commit suicide. So they also lie to the parents. That is what's so monstrous about this, is there are a lot of parents, certainly there are parents that are sort of this Munchausen by proxy who enjoy this and want a trans child, but certainly most of the parents don't want to mutilate their children, but they're lied to by these medical professionals.
Will, hold your thought on your response. It's very important. I want to get to it. I do, but you know how traffic is in D.C. We got to get to this real fast, and then we'll get your response with Will Hild with Consumer Research. It's 6:15 WMAL traffic and weather.
News is brought to you by Baird Financial.
Wrapping things up here with Will Hild. He's the Executive Director of Consumers Research, and he has partnered with American Parents Coalition to spearhead this campaign to raise awareness about what several children's hospitals, Children's Minnesota, Cincinnati Children's Hospital Philadelphia, and the Children's National Medical Center here in Washington, D.C., what they're doing with regard to these, you can only describe them as genital mutilation of children who were told that they were born in the wrong body, that God made a mistake. It's so insidiously evil what goes on here. And if you want more information, by the way, go to stopthedocs.com, stopthedocs.com, so you can get more details that we certainly can't share really on a family program. Will, go ahead if you could, because the pressure that's put on parents right now, as Julie just noted, it's horrible. It's demonic, I think, to make a parent decide, well, you either need to go through puberty blockers and genital mutilation, or your child will kill themselves. What's a parent to do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is one of the things that we've seen, these radical gender ideology pushers, these surgical pushers for children, these chemical castration pushers for children. They guilt trip the parents. And no less than Elon Musk was taken in by this. In an interview he did with Jordan Peterson, he described his then son Xavier was told, Elon was told that his son was born in the wrong body, that they needed all this chemical and castration and surgical change to his genitalia in order to basically keep him from being suicidal. Yeah. And in that, here's the richest man in the world, and he's being lied to by the medical community, and he's now on jihad, for lack of a better word, against this absolute nonsense, this absolute disgusting attack on our children. And what we're trying to highlight is not only what the doctors are doing and what needs to be stopped at these hospitals, but that there are major corporations whose executives are on the boards of these hospitals. And it's just atrocious that any company like Kroger's or Costco would want to be involved in this or associated with it. So that's one of the things we're trying to highlight is, these corporations have been saying fast and loose. And one of the things we started the segment by saying, we aren't going to stop. We aren't going to take a break now that Trump has won. And you're 100% right, because all of this woke nonsense, all of this ESG nonsense was predicated on the idea that it was good for business, that the net zero insanity, that being woke on social issues was going to be good for business. And that was always a lie. Yeah. And if Tuesday of last week proved anything, is that is absurd. And so we are going to be driving hard against any corporation that continues to go woke, because they are not doing this for the bottom line. They're doing this to turn their company into a political utility for the far left.
Well,
and so they are going to pay a price.
I will never forget when my friend Mercedes Schlepp pulled me aside at CPAC and said, you got to meet Will Hild. You got to hear what he's doing at Consumers Research. And you opened my eyes about Coca-Cola and about some of the airlines and Boeing. And here we've come full circle, Will Hild, because as you mentioned, the CEO of Boeing has shut down their entire DEI department. And when asked about that, he said, it's very simple. Ideology doesn't help build airplanes. Period. And I thought of you, Will, because it's like, that's a victory. That's a huge victory.
Absolutely. We are so excited. I'm sorry that it took so many years and so many mistakes. Some of them appear to have been fatal for users of Boeing products. But new CEO seems to really understand the dangers of DEI. And the problem is when you're making a product as vital and as potentially dangerous as an airplane, you want the absolute best engineers. You want the absolute best people in the factory. You want the absolute best executives. You don't care if they're white, black, brown, or purple, okay? Any intrusion of sex and race into the hiring or promotion in a company like Boeing is not only a betrayal of your consumers, which it is in any company, it is literally putting people's lives on the line and putting ideology over whether they live or die. And Boeing has learned that the hard way with the 737 MAX disaster, but it's also, been disgraced through, like I said, doors falling off planes mid-flight, and the fact that they sent people to the space station, and we're supposed to bring them back 2 weeks later, and their space shuttle broke.
And
now
who did it take to save them? Elon Musk. It took Elon Musk.
Yes.
We got to leave it there. Will Hild, Consumers Research, you do great work. We love having you on, and we appreciate you joining us today, but we're up out of time, all right?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Ideology does not build airplanes. If only every CEO went to their HR department and said, explain to me how this DEI department helps us do what our company is supposed to do. And wait for the answer. It'll be revealing. A quick look at the lawfare that Donald Trump, as president-elect, is still kind of facing here. As you know, a couple of his cases, the Georgia election case, the New York civil fraud case, those are set for appeal. The classified documents case in Florida, as well as the January 6th case out of the DOJ, those are set to be dismissed as Jack Smith is closing up his shop. But what about the sentencing in the New York criminal trial? This was the felonies from George Mershon. Excuse me, is it George Mershon? The Judge Mershon. Judge Juan Mershon, that's right. He's the judge overseeing that case, and he is set to sentence President Trump. He was supposed to do it this week. He's now delayed the sentencing. Not until after the presidency, though. He's delayed it indefinitely. He hasn't set a date yet that I can see here. These are the 34 counts of falsifying business records. And this was also the Stormy Daniels case, the so-called hush money, which is really just your typical non-disclosure agreement. He's delaying this. Trump's attorneys filed a motion to completely vacate the charges, and Judge Merchan has said, nope, but we'll delay it. We'll come up with the sentence when we feel good and ready. So that's still hanging there. And it seems like, maybe when the American people had all the facts in front of them and they still overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to be president, maybe one judge in New York City looking at this case that has completely twisted the law and invented a felony to press against Donald Trump to just stop him from being able to run for president, considering that political maneuver failed, maybe this judge should, read the room and set back the entire power that he has over the president-elect and say, yeah, you know what, maybe one judge sitting in New York, shouldn't have this kind of power over the will of the entire American people. But nope, Judge Juan Merchan is still hanging on to his power and is having it loom over Donald Trump. We'll see what comes of that case. But as of now, the sentencing has been delayed indefinitely. It's 6:30. Sheriff Chuck Jenkins joins us next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company on a super busy Wednesday morning, post-election and mid-transition. And we've got plenty to cover. At 7:05, Betsy DeVos, former education secretary, will discuss what life might look like without a Department of Education. At 7:35, Senator Ron Johnson, in the middle of the leadership battles in the Senate, supposed to have a vote today, but maybe Senator Ron Johnson has something else to say about when that vote takes place. Maybe he wants a delay. We'll ask him when he joins us. And then at 8:05, Tom Homan, your brand new border czar, and I suspect he might be working hand in hand with our next guest here, Julie Gunlock. So should we get right to it? What do you think?
We should.
Let's do it. He is the sheriff, the 5-term sheriff of Frederick County, Chuck Jenkins, who joins us now. And I got to tell you, Sheriff Jenkins, first of all, it is so great to talk with you. Thank you for joining us, especially considering these bogus charges have now been completely dropped and you are cleared of any wrongdoing in this ridiculous machine gun conspiracy case. It's great to hear your voice. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Larry. Good morning. And listen, I just got through the fight of my life. No doubt about it. It was a 587 days of a nightmare.
And it's no surprise or coincidence, I think, that these charges came after you won a resounding 5th election in Frederick County. It came after the fact that you had worked in cooperation with the Trump administration to ensure that immigration laws were enforced in your county and that you worked hand in hand with ICE during your time there. And I got to tell you, not only I just laid out what I thought of these charges, but you have shown so much discipline in not playing this out in the press, not coming to the media. I don't know if I would have been able to do it. You decided you knew what the law was, you knew you were innocent, and you just kept your head down, did your job, and didn't play it out in the media. And you should be commended for that, because I don't think most politicians would. And I know you don't think of yourself as a politician, but you got to run for office, so you are.
Well, Larry, thank you for that. Listen, I had put my head down. I worked hard at the advice of what I think is the most greatest team of attorneys in the world. I listened to them. I kept my mouth shut. I knew from day one I was innocent. I maintained it. I was never going to waver. And here we are today. And stepping back a minute, I believe you're right. I believe I was eventually prosecuted for what I stand for. There are things going on across the country that people don't know about. And I think the powers that be took the opportunity to take a shot at me. And listen, like I said, I was never going to waver on this.
Sheriff, lawfare, we have seen the use of lawfare by the Democrats to attack their political opponents. Tell us how you feel post-election, and now that Trump is in office and appointing, all of these great people to his administration. I'd just be interested in your reaction to the election.
Listen, I think it's a new day in America. I think you've seen a shift in the average American's way of thinking. They know what the problems are. They know what affects and concerns every American. And obviously, my stand on illegal immigration and open borders, it really has brought the world down on me. This was a fight of my life. This was not like another election. Okay, this was a fight for my life. But I think what you're going to see is the President Trump, who I admire greatly, is going to put the right people in place. And I heard your next guest is Tom Homan, who I've gotten to know very well over the years, and that man is going to do so much. It's going to be unbelievable. I do think so. And I'm proud to be working with him. It's to some degree with what we're doing in Frederick.
Let's gleefully go to that and not talk about what the DOJ and the feds just put you through for nearly 2 years, Sheriff Jenkins, because I know you want to talk about the people of Frederick County and keeping them safe. So, one of the things that Mr. Homan, the new border czar, has talked about, of course, is deportations of criminal illegal aliens who are in this country and the machinations of that. But he's also focused on trying to find these children who are missing, over 300,000 children who have been brought into this country, who the Department of Homeland Security have lost track of. I know that you would be very concerned about that. How would this go about happening? Because there are probably children, odds are, in Frederick County right now who need rescuing. Do you have any idea in how you might work with federal officials and Homeland Security to be able to get that done?
Well, listen, we have been working with ICE for like 16 years now. It's been very effective in the way we do it. Our focus has always been on criminals through the 287G program. I do see a way that if we could get law enforcement at the state and local level to fully cooperate with ICE, we could do a great job in identifying where these children are, who's victimizing these children, get a real handle on the child trafficking. But state and local law enforcement has to have the will and has to be able to work with ICE to be more effective. ICE doesn't have enough people. They need help.
Yeah.
So like we do in Frederick County, we're a force multiplier. And I think if law enforcement across this country would ignore what the politicians are saying, that, the legislatures and the mayors and the county executives, and get out there and cooperate with ICE, this would be a better country, a better America.
Well, let's just peel that back a little bit further. Are you getting the cooperation you think you need as sheriff of Frederick County with Governor Wes Moore's office and state police? Is there resistance there? What needs to be improved upon now that we have a new administration and the people of this country want our immigration laws enforced?
I can't say there's resistance. Listen, I've had no communication whatsoever with Governor Moore. I know Governor Moore was probably wanted to see me eventually convicted and removed from office. No doubt about that. I don't know. Obviously he's against any enforcement whatsoever. The state police, the state police superintendent answers to Governor Moore, so obviously he's going to carry out the governor's mission. I can't say there's resistance because in Frederick County, things are going so well, it's unbelievable. We don't have the lowest crime rate in the region by mistake. It's not an accident. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Sheriff Jenkins, again, we're overjoyed for you. We're very happy, and we're really happy for the people of Frederick County and all the deputies that you oversee there in a really functioning law enforcement division here in the state of Maryland, which is not always the case, sadly. So I'm really glad that you're back.
Listen,
and this is.
Please congratulate Tom Homan for me, and I wish him the very best in his mission.
I'll let him know. I have a feeling you two will be speaking quite a bit over the next several months or years. Thank you, Sheriff Jenkins.
Thank you. Good morning.
Mark Levin, weeknights from 6 till 9.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
As President-elect Trump rolls out his cabinet selections, all eyes are on the Department of Education, and we wait with bated breath to find out who he will name to basically oversee the dismantling of that cabinet-level position. Don't forget, in September, when he was running for office, he made this promise.
Another thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children because they'll do a much better job of it.
It's that simple. The current Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, responded to that video, which went viral over the weekend, or yesterday. I think Libs of TikTok put it out there, or somebody else put it out. Miguel Cardona said, if you support eliminating the Department of Education, you don't support our students. The Department of Education provides funding for students with disabilities, rural students, and programs that make college affordable. Yeah, you're doing a crappy job if you're trying to make college affordable, pal. That's all he could come up with as to why we need a Department of Education. Whenever anyone complains about this, Julie, I always say, can you explain what you think the Department of Education does right now? And I don't think people know.
You know what the Department of Education has given us over the years? It has given us things like restorative justice, which means no discipline in the schools. It has given us a failing school lunch program, which, by the way, the current Secretary of Education threatened to do away with the school lunch program if certain schools in conservative areas didn't do things like DEI in the classroom and all this other, and restorative justice and sort of the teaching of DEI in the classroom. So the Department of Education has destroyed education in this country. I'll be glad to see it go.
Yeah, the most important data point in all of that, Julie, is the fact that when Jimmy Carter instituted the Department of Education, which really, let's face it, was just a payback to the teachers union and continues to be a payback to the teachers unions, at the time, we ranked in the top levels worldwide in education, in literacy, in math scores. We are now down in the 30s and 40s worldwide. The creation of the Department of Education has deteriorated education in this country. There's no other way to say it. Coming up next, we're going to speak with the former Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, under Donald Trump, and we'll get her opinion on what happens now without a DOE. It's 6:53.
Making sense of your world.
I don't know where to begin.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Thanks for taking my call.
Making sense of